we are back for another daily edition of Photo Q&A, where we answer one of your photography questions every single day of the week, along with the help from my high school best friend, Paul, who's going to keep me on track and ask any clarifying questions if I get too technical or anything that the beginner photographer like yourself may not understand. Sometimes I just get into my head and get going pretty crazy. So if you have any questions that you want answered about photography or anything even related to photography, feel free to ask those questions. Submit your questions. You can do so on Instagram. Just comment on any of our photos. You can leave us a comment on Facebook. That's facebook.com/beginner photography podcast. Or just shoot us an email at beginnerphotographypodcast@gmail.com. And guys, if you like this episode and you get any sort of value out of it whatsoever, I would be forever grateful if you left us a review in iTunes or whatever podcast player you are listening to us on right now. That's it. Let's go ahead and get into today's question.
All right, Raymond, this is from Freddie. He sent you an email. How can I figure out how much to charge for my first wedding?
Paul, how much would you charge if you knew a little bit about welding and you obviously don't make your living off of welding, but somebody came up to you and said, hey, you know what? I need you to weld together a boat dock for me.
Jesus.
It's a big job, right?
Yeah, it's probably going to be aluminum, so that's going to take some time, but I'm not certified welder, so I can't charge the certified rate. I'd probably charge, I don't know, $65 an hour.
And what do you think a professional who does this full-time, certified, makes their livelihood, owns a business of welding, what do you think that they would charge?
Probably about $120.
Okay, so about half. You would charge half.
Yeah, just because of the certification.
Okay, sure. That makes sense. And I think that you have the right mindset because you're looking at it as it's an important job and you know that they need it done, but you're not offering and you don't have the experience to offer that that a professional has and that they're willing to give. So that's why.
Yeah, that's not saying I don't.
That you're not competent and that you don't know what you're doing.
Right. But that certification has a lot of weight to it. So when you're paying $120, you know that that person has been tested to a nationwide standard. And I've been tested to that standard, but I just don't have the card. So, it's fair. I think it would be, because then it would make sense. If I was going to charge like $100, yet somebody who is ASW certified is charging $120, why wouldn't you just pay the extra $20 an hour?
Yeah.
Over time, it's gonna, charge more. But then you are also getting a certified person. So exactly. I'm trying to make financial sense. But also, I'm not gonna undercut myself and be like $20 an hour because then it's not worth it. Then I'm gonna just be out there sweating my.
Yeah, and you also know that in this job, even though you're competent in your technical abilities to do this, you still know that you are going to learn a lot about welding and putting things together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would you say that that's the case?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, just doing something for a long time, doing a large project, no matter what it is, no matter how long you've been doing it, you're going to pick up some things.
Yes, and if I was working by myself, yeah, I would probably try to figure out what's the most efficient way of doing it.
Okay, so then once again, when it comes to figuring out what you're going to charge, you can rationalize it that way in your head. That's like, yeah, I know that I'm making less than I would if I was working for like a professional, but
it also might take me more time to do the job.
Well, we're going to take time out of the equation for this because a wedding day is a wedding day.
Right.
But you know that you're also going to learn things.
The actual quality of each weld probably won't be the same.
Okay,
as
fair
somebody
enough.
who is certified, because when you are certified, you have to do so much welding to keep your certification. So you're guaranteed to get a pretty consistent result from somebody's certified. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I
So
think that was a perfect answer right there. That was a perfect example right there, because when you're shooting a wedding, the first time that you're asked to shoot a wedding, I mean, people just have this idea that it's like, oh wow, like wedding photography is super expensive, so I can, I don't know what I should charge. Probably about, I don't know, half of what they charge, I guess, right? If the average wedding photographer around me costs $4,000, I guess I'll shoot it for $2,000, right?
mhm.
Well, it's kind of that way, but it's also kind of not. When you think about the person who's charging $4,000 to shoot a wedding, there's a lot more that's going on behind the scenes with taxes, with having a business license,
Yeah,
being certified. Well, not certified, but having the proper documentation in place to say that you're legally allowed to take money from people and that you can run a business in your state. So there's that factor. The other thing is that if you are at the point where you're charging that much for a wedding, you're going to have the experience. You've been doing it for a long time. But when it comes to your first wedding, the way that you should think about it is think of it as purely a learning experience. Okay? Purely as a learning experience. And then everything else is extra. Okay? So if you really want to shoot the wedding, the way that I would figure it out is ask myself, what is the lowest amount that I would take for missing a day away from my family or my friends or doing something really fun, right? So, Paul, what would it cost you? What would it take to take you away from your family for a day? How much would it cost?
$2.
Oh, geez. Oh, my God. That was not what I was looking for. Okay, let's say that Metallica was in town and you were going to go see them with...
$10,000, Raymond.
Oh, my God. You're killing me over here. That's the exact opposite of... Okay.
I'm just kidding. No, no, about that, about $60 an hour, depending on really what it is. If I'm doing like back-breaking labor, like digging a ditch,
Yeah, it's going to be more.
all day, it's gonna be like $150, like something I don't want to do.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So that has to go into it too. If it's gonna be enjoyable and you're gonna get something out of it,
like free cake at a wedding.
yeah, free cake at the wedding. You get to learn something. You get to add this to your portfolio. You get to put some greenbacks in your pocket. You know. But
I
then
think
if you go way too low, people are gonna not feel comfortable about it. So if somebody asked me to weld a dock, and I was like, pay
$20 an
for
hour.
materials and supplies, $10 an hour, and I'll do it. They gotta be like, you must be some kind of hack that you
Right.
just $10. Like, I don't feel comfortable. Like this thing is just gonna fall apart.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. And people do feel that way when it comes to photography, right? They don't want to um, pick somebody who's the cheapest just because they're the cheapest. They still want to know, no matter how cheap you are, that they're going to get good photos out of it. So therefore, I was really just going to say, pick a number of what it would cost for you to be away from your family or your friends or your activities for a day, and that would be the absolute minimum. And for me, when I shot my first wedding, it was about $700. It was either $700 or $750. I'd have to go back, and I still have the contract somewhere. I'd have to find it and tell you exactly how much it was. But that's how I came up with that number. Is that I figured out, you know what? That's how much. I only have 2 days off per week to spend with my family. My wife worked an opposite shift from me, so we didn't get to see each other a lot. So if we already didn't see each other 5 out of the 7 days of a week, and now I was going to take another day away from her, how much is that worth to me? And to me, the answer was about $700 or $750. And that's what I stuck to my guns, and they accepted. And for me, it turned out to be worth it. However, that would be about the absolute max that I would charge. Anything more than that, really, should not be your first wedding. Your first wedding, your first 5 weddings you should look at them as purely like a learning experience. So therefore, you're not trying to make a living wage off of these weddings that you're shooting. You want to take enough so that you're learning something, and that you're still going to be able to get something that you're happy with, and that the couple is going to be happy with as well.
Okay, Raymond, would you though also let these people know that you're within their first 5 weddings?
Oh, 100%. That's a great question. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. A wedding day is, it really is potentially a once in a lifetime event, and you don't want to betray anybody. You don't want to, have them distrust you. You're not trying to be shady about this. You really should let them know up front that that this will be one of your first weddings that you've ever shot, that you're comfortable with your abilities, and that you feel like you're proficient enough to take on the task and the responsibility that it is a wedding, and it's very important. But you do want to be honest with them so that if they're not comfortable with it, so that they can pick somebody else. Sounds
I agree.
reasonable?
No, yeah, no, I agree, 100%.
Guys, I hope that you liked today's question. I hope that it brought you value and some sort of actionable tip that you're going to be able to implement and put into your photography journey to advance you to wherever you want to be, whether it's just a hobbyist or if you really want to take your photography professional and open up some sort of studio or business to do so. I hope that you got at least one piece of information out of today's episode. And again, if you did, please, please, please give us a review in iTunes. That's all that I ask for. I ask for nothing out of you, out of this podcast. These podcasts take a lot of time to create, and I'm so happy to do so if you are going to take these tips and implement them to grow yourself, to grow your photography. So the only thing that I ask of you is if you could just please leave us a rating and review in iTunes or whatever podcast player or app you are listening to us on right now. Again, guys, if you have any photography questions or about anything photography related, feel free to send us an email at beginnerphotographypodcast@gmail.com. Reach out to us on Facebook, facebook.com/beginner photography podcast, or find us on Instagram, where you'll be able to keep up with us and all of our guests that we have on the podcast as well. And that is Instagram username Beginner Photo Podcast. That's all that I got for today. I hope that you guys get out there, shoot something fun, enjoy. I love you guys, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.